Today is August the 8th, 2026. You ever have one of those days where you plan everything ahead, go to the beach, go paddleboarding, all the things, and then the weather in the morning? Well, let's just say it gets irky in terms of possible thunderstorms, and you don't want to be stuck on Toronto Island during a thunderstorm. I've been through 2 thunderstorms that were pretty bad, and that is on the island, and they were not good experiences. Being stuck in a washroom overnight with people who were panicking and trying to keep my cool, which frustratingly so, at least or from my perspective, seemed to annoy the people who were upset. The fact that I was keeping my cool and thinking. And all this yammer here brings me to the point that I'm making this video, computer. When did the COVID pandemic end?
The WHO declared an end to the COVID-19 public health emergency on May 5th, 2023.
And how many years ago was that?
That was about 326 years ago.
3 years and how many months?
That's about 3 years and 3 months.
As soon as soon as I heard about this pandemic starting in 2019, that would be like in October, and people I know were talking about this and the severity of the situation that was coming our way. I was at a taekwondo tournament, and I guess the severity of what was to come wasn't entirely in my mind to the full extent. Though I would have to say I was like 95% aware of what was to come. Rather than shaking hands with people, it was you'd give them a thumbs up or whatever. And I accidentally shook hands with someone who wasn't necessarily feeling well. And I should have been thinking. I didn't get very ill at that point, but when the first lockdowns came, computer, when did the first COVID lockdowns come?
The first COVID-19 lockdowns began in January 2020. China implemented the initial lockdown in Wuhan on January 23rd, 2020. The United Kingdom followed with its first nationwide lockdown on March 23rd, 2020. In Canada, various provinces started implementing restrictions in March 2020 as community transmission was confirmed.
Yep, there was a woman, or she's still living here, that lives in my building.
Anyhow, this woman was said to be lacking in knowledge, despite anyone who had a smartphone or a computerized device was getting constant advisements and warnings about the severity of the pandemic. There were numerous TED Talks and all kinds of open university discussions on the pandemic, and specifically on the COVID-19 virus and the different variants that were coming out. And yet, as I said, this very evil woman spat on people and stupid people in the building. Thought it was okay. I will never understand that thinking. There was a man who lived in the building also, and he became very ill with COVID. And I had heard that she had assisted him when he was ill. And yet, did her daily routine of going around the building coughing and hacking and spitting computer. When was the second COVID lockdown? Canada's second COVID-19 wave began on July 18, 2020 and peaked on January 10, 2021. What about the third lockdown? Canada's third COVID-19 wave began on March 5, 2021, peaked on April 18, 2021, and ended on July 22, 2021. How many total lockdowns were they? Based on the timeline, Canada experienced 4 major COVID-19 waves, each associated with significant public health restrictions and lockdowns between 2020 and 2021. When was the last COVID lockdown? The fourth COVID wave in Canada began on July 23, 2021, driven by the Delta variant. By late 2021, many provinces started lifting restrictions, though mask mandates remained. The Omicron variant then drove the fifth wave starting in December 2021. And during the last COVID lockdown, I was spat upon by that woman and I became ill. I recovered, but the symptoms I had was swollen joints, both ankles, both knees, and my left elbow now. It moved around from ankle to ankle, from knee to elbow, and the doctors had an emergency where I had to go by ambulance, so I was so swollen I couldn't move. They said it was arthritis and gout I later saw. Well, that many years later, I saw a liver specialist that told me I didn't have arthritis, I didn't have gout, and it was later confirmed that I did have a virus that was often contracted when one was already infected with COVID, or it could also be just COVID itself that was affecting. They weren't entirely sure, but I went through a lot there. And this spitting woman is still in the building. I saw her yesterday. She sickens me. Every time I see her, I want to hit her. But my morality tells me don't, because I am a superior person. And this isn't about me talking all superior and everything. This is about me asking some very serious and difficult questions. Why is it that people totally ignored all the medical science and screeched that COVID-19 wasn't real? Well, my personal thoughts are they're crazy. It's almost like they can't accept reality, or they don't take the time to just do a Google search on their phone, which to me is utterly, astoundingly difficult to comprehend. Computer, why do people deny the realities of the COVID pandemic? People deny COVID-19 realities for several complex reasons. Misinformation spread through social media and mass media. Cognitive bias is like confirmation bias, distrust in authorities, and political polarization all contributed. Some also felt overwhelmed by uncertainty and changing expert guidance during the crisis. Well, folks, I can't buy that, because all the information I saw defined what COVID-19 was exactly, clearly, unequivocally to the point. Is it that they've got a low mentality, stupidity? And another thing that gets me, they deny that anyone died from COVID. Computer, why do people deny that anyone died from COVID? People deny COVID-19 deaths for various complex reasons. Misinformation spreads easily online, creating confusion and distrust. Some people may feel overwhelmed by the crisis and reject official information as a coping mechanism. Others may have political or ideological motivations that shape their views on the pandemic, which to me is just unequivocally stupid. I lost 5 people that I cared about, 2 of them. Everybody thought they were going to be okay. They thought they were going to live, and they didn't. Others were stupid and refused to take the vaccine when it became available. But that's still 5 people that are not in my life anymore. And I will see people, or I should say hear people, insisting that no one died from COVID-19, denying the fact that there was a COVID triage center set up in mobile medical field tents, guarded by military personnel with fully loaded weapons to keep idiots and morons to going into that mobile medical facility. In other words, from breaking into the tents. And there were stupid people who would do that. I could not understand the stupidity of it. Computer, why do people refuse to vaccinate for COVID? People refuse COVID-19 vaccination for several complex reasons. These include concerns about potential side effects, wanting to wait and see if the vaccine is safe, believing misinformation and conspiracy theories, mistrusting government and medical institutions, and some people's belief in natural immunity over vaccination. Well, that was explained very carefully in a TED Talk, that COVID-19 is a more transmissible disease than the irregular virus, meaning other viruses. And I got to be careful because there are people out there that think there's only one virus on the planet. And that's COVID-19, believe it or not. I couldn't believe some of the things I've heard people say. Once again, sheer utter stupidity. It is a proven scientific fact that vaccines work, computer. Proven scientific facts that vaccines work. COVID-19 vaccines have been proven effective through extensive clinical trials and real-world data studies show vaccines like Pfizer, BioNTech, and Oxford AstraZeneca have effectiveness rates between 70 to 95% against severe illness and hospitalization. Real-world evidence confirms these vaccines significantly reduce severe disease and mortality with mRNA and adenoviral vector vaccines demonstrating consistent protection. The rapid development and deployment of these vaccines represents a major scientific achievement that has saved millions of lives worldwide. Want to know how researchers actually measure vaccine effectiveness in the real world? Yes, researchers measure vaccine effectiveness in the real world using observational studies that compare health outcomes between vaccinated and unvaccinated groups. They track how many people in each group get infected, develop symptoms, need hospitalization, or die from COVID-19. The CDC uses the Vision Network, a collaboration with major health systems, to monitor vaccine performance against hospitalizations and severe illness. Common methods include cohort studies following people over time and case control studies comparing those with and without COVID-19. Want to know more about how this specific study designs cohort and case control actually work in practice? Yes! Cohort studies start with people grouped by exposure and follow them forward to see who develops the outcome. They can measure how often the outcome happens and compare risks directly. Case control studies start from the outcome, gathering people who have it in a comparison. Group who do not, then look backward at exposure. This is efficient for rare outcomes, but yields an odds ratio rather than a direct risk. So you see, folks, the information is out there. Proven facts through naturally, the scientific method versus idiots who believe in a conspiracy of a new world order trying to take over. The only new world order that I'm aware of was after the First World War, when many of the countries, kingdoms that once existed had been absorbed by other nations. And it was indeed a new world order after the First World War. And I guess stupid people just take that new world order phrase and turn it into something else. You could say that after the Second World War, after Hitler was driven back into Germany and defeated, and then, of course, when the Soviet Union refused to give land back that it had driven Germany out of, and forced those people in those lands to abandon their individual statehoods and become a part of the Soviet Union. That indeed was a new world order. You could also say another new world order. A time when a new world order could be used. That term is in 1991. When the Soviet Union fell, the Berlin Wall had fallen. That indeed was a new world order. But you get your stupid people. I call them stupidos because they will take their stupidity and they will try to torpedo valid information with their stupido information. And one thing I have learned in life is that half of the people in the world are either stupid, low, intelligent, whatever other term you want to use, or suffer from some form of mental illness, or even some form of insanity, perhaps schizophrenia, and they imagine a new world order. And because a lot of people who suffer from that disease, schizophrenia, tend to be intelligent, well, they can tell pretty amazing stories. And when you stop and think about it, you can make up a story about anything, and it wouldn't be difficult. You don't have to base it upon basic fact, and the rest could just be loosely based on things that make sense, but don't necessarily have to have any scientific data backing, such as that the pandemic wasn't real. And as I have said, I was ill during the last COVID lockdown, and I lost people that I care about, and you still got people going on about. Oh, well, I don't know if the pandemic was real. I haven't decided on that yet, are you that stupid? Let me tell you about another form of stupidity that does come to mind. Look at the war between Israel and Palestine. Palestine. Ever since the time of the Grand Mufti of Palestine, look, during the founding of Israel, the Grand Mufti wanted the Jews to be driven into the ocean. That's what he said. He wanted all the land of Palestine and Israel, which Palestine used to be. Parts of Palestine used to be parts of Jordan, I do believe. And Israel was given statehood and Palestine was offered statehood. But they had to accept that Israel had a right to exist, amongst other things. And the Grand Mufti wouldn't. When the Grand Mufti died, Yasser Arafat took over. Now, Yasser Arafat was a terrorist, and he promoted terrorist acts such as strapping bombs to people, to children, and blowing up people. Imagine strapping a bomb to your child and sending your child off to die. And you've got young people today that know nothing about that, but they'll stand there and they'll screech, "Freedom for Palestine computer!" When was the Palestine terrorist attack on the Olympics? The Palestinian terrorist attack on the Olympics occurred on September 5, 1972, during the Munich Summer Games. 8 members of the Black September militant group infiltrated the Olympic Village, killing 2 Israeli athletes and taking 9 others hostage. Want to know more about how this attack changed Olympic security forever? Yes, the Munich attack completely transformed Olympic security. Before 1972, the Games had minimal security. Munich spent just $2 million and used unarmed guards. After the tragedy, every host city implemented massive security upgrades, including military-grade protection, surveillance systems, and specialized counter-terrorism units. The International Olympic Committee also created dedicated security protocols in coordination with international law enforcement agencies. How many young people actually know about this? And you know what it's going to be. I'm saying the ones that support Palestine. There's no specific data about current youth awareness of the 1972 Munich Olympics attack and the available information. The attack was broadcast live to 900 million viewers at the time. But I don't have current polling data about young people's knowledge of it today. Would you like me to search for recent surveys about historical knowledge among youth? No. All right, I understand. Have a great day. These young people who support Palestine today, they know nothing of history. They say Palestine is innocent and always has been innocent because Palestine knows how to manipulate, how to tell a lie. They send their people out around the world to democracies like Canada, the US, etc. And they arrange protests at universities and colleges and cry out, "Freedom for Palestine." But Palestine is not a peaceful country. Their government is still a terrorist government based upon the ideals of the Grand Mufti and then Yasser Arafat. When he passed, there was computer who took over after Yasser Arafat. And Mahmoud Abbas took over after Yasser Arafat's death in November 2004. Abbas has led both the Palestinian Authority and the State of Palestine since 2005 and recently appointed Hussein al-Sheikh as his deputy and likely successor in April 2025. And then we get so many things from the Palestinians digging tunnels. And we know they dug tunnels all through the Gaza. They dug tunnels underneath the Palestinian-Israeli border wall into Israel, right in behind a school where there were kids. And they had plans to break into that school and take hostages, but they were caught. But none of these young people that say, "Oh, freedom for Palestine," talk about that crime or any of the crimes that Palestine has committed. Computer, what was the attack on Israel that precipitated the current conflict in the Gaza? The current Gaza conflict was precipitated by Hamas's Operation Al-Aqsa flood on October 7, 2023. Hamas fired between 3,000 and 5,000 rockets
and infiltrated around 3,000 militants using various means, including trucks, motorcycles, bulldozer speedboats, and paragliders. This attack killed over 200 people and took 251 hostages, triggering Israel's military campaign in response. In other words, Israel said, enough. They've given Palestine and its government chance after chance, and now it was time to clean up the Gaza. And yes, innocent people died. Innocent people on both sides. Innocent people are innocent people. There's no way you can argue that. But the Gaza had to be cleaned up, and they needed to hunt down Hamas and Hezbollah wherever they are, because, let's be honest, they need to drive these organizations back to the Stone Age, like it or not. And Palestine goes wah, 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 woo-hoo, woo-hoo, woo-hoo.
But who built all of these tunnels under the Gaza, connecting to a hospital and schools and other buildings? Who did this? These were military-grade tunnels, a whole system with weapon, caches, everything. This wasn't a Palestine seeking peace. This was a Palestine preparing for an all-out war. Now, there were innocent people up above, on the land, above all these tunnels that didn't know a darn thing. And yes, people suffered, but the government of Palestine wanted war. Now they got it and they're screaming, wow, 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 wow. Now we can argue that Israel's been very vicious in this war. Well, how was Adolf Hitler and the Nazis defeated? By the Allies, viciously getting a foothold in France, in Normandy, France, and at the other points, Juno, Beach, etc., viciously fighting the Nazis, the Germans, and killing them viciously. You can say, wah, 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 for the Nazis, but that's war. And by the way, the Grand Mufti of Palestine was an ally of Adolf Hitler during the Second World War, and the Grand Mufti of Palestine sent a trainload of children to the death camps, Jewish children. So are you getting what I'm saying here? You got people who know nothing about history, and with COVID, nothing about medical science. And yet the COVID deniers slash anti-vaxxers will say it's a conspiracy of the New World Order. And those that support Palestine shouting, "Free Palestine!" What are they freeing Palestine from? Palestine makes its own problems. Both of these people, these groups of peoples, have the same problem. They don't do critical thinking, and I have learned in life, critical thinking skills only come from development, from learning through schooling or doing research online, and learning, gaining knowledge that you have more things in your mind to think with. But when people don't do that, they'll spit on people during a pandemic, invade, basically cross the border and attack other people in another country, and then scream, "Wah, wah, wah!" And that country says, "You've attacked us so many times, we've had enough." That's like somebody who swings at you every day, and finally you beat the living hell out of them. Wah, wah, wah. And you get someone who says, "Oh, well, you didn't have to hit them. You didn't have to keep hitting them while they were getting up. They should have stayed down." They've done it before. They'll do it again, unfortunately. And that's the issue with Palestine. It's not a perfect solution, but when people say free Palestine, I say free it from the current regime. Palestine needs to become a democratic country and not ruled by an Islamic theocracy. That's the big thing, Islamic ruled nation, and Palestine's one of the worst of them. We talk about Iran, how bad Iran is. Look at Palestine, look at the history. But the people who shout free Palestine don't ever do any critical thinking. And that's why you'll have idiots that won't even get a flu vaccine. And they'll say nobody died from the flu. Oh yes, they have a 12-year-old boy died from the flu. And by the way, the flu is influenza, in case you don't already know. That 12-year-old boy, all because he wasn't vaccinated. Well, anti-vaxxers, deniers of COVID, and idiots who scream free Palestine! An idiot by any other name is still just an idiot. I hope I've made some sense here.
And now for the real shock. Something that none of these Free Palestine or anti-vaxxers or COVID deniers possess the critical thinking to realize. Vladimir Putin and Russia and its invasion of Ukraine. Computer, when did Russia invade Ukraine?
Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th, 2022.
What was the intention of Russia's invasion?
Russia's invasion aimed to overthrow Ukraine's government and bring the country back under Moscow's control. Putin claimed it was to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, but many analysts believe the deeper goal was to eliminate Ukraine as an independent state and reassert Russian dominance over its former territory.
Now, folks, Russia could not pull that off. They had planned to walk over Ukraine and be in the capital of Ukraine, which is Kyiv, and seize control. But that did not work. The people of the Ukraine resisted, and that war has been going on, that war of resistance has been going on ever since. With countries around the world, including the US, but since Donald Trump has gotten back into power, he provides less support than what Joe Biden did for Ukraine. Now, Donald Trump is another ball of stupidity and lack of critical thinking by the people who follow him. Remember Trump telling people to drink Clorox during COVID? Yeah, people died. Bottom line here is, Putin and Russia were losing the war in Ukraine, the war to take over Ukraine, so that they could continue after they conquered Ukraine and retake the former breakaway Soviet republics and rebuild the former Soviet Union. They wanted to walk over Poland, Germany, and as many other countries as they could. In other words, pulling a Hitler. But Ukraine is stopping them. Ukraine is suffering great losses. People in their 70s, teenagers, are fighting side by side. People from other nations have come in and volunteered to fight for Ukraine, become a part of their military, special forces included, etc. Now, Putin and Russia needed to take attention off of the fact that they were losing, because the world was giving Ukraine a lot of munitions, monetary funds, and just so much support for Ukraine's war effort. Russia needed a distraction, something to force the rest of the world to divert its support to and take some support away from Ukraine. And the perfect thing would be a war. And the perfect place for a war would be the Middle East. And the perfect place in the Middle East would be between Israel and Palestine. And as soon as people started considering that possibility, guess what happens? Palestine attacks Israel. It is clear that Palestine was supported by outside powers, outside influence. And you want to bet anything that was Russia as well. So while people are screeching "Free Palestine," they're actually nothing more than useful idiots. Because the master manipulator here is Russia and Putin. Never doubt it, Putin plans to pull a Hitler move here and walk over Europe. This would be World War III all over again. Now, Russia does not have the military prowess, the military strength, the up-to-date equipment that it once did when it was the former Soviet Union. The Russians are fighting with 1980s vintage equipment. In other words, this is equipment, devices of war, weapons of war, that would normally be in a museum, but instead it is being used by Russia in the battlefield. The Ukraine military has modern day equipment, shoulder-fired missiles with radar tracking and laser-guided to a target that they're trying to shoot down. Modern equipment. Drones, and Ukraine has its own drone production industry, and believe me, it has become an industry. They are using these drones as weapons of war. In the beginning, they were buying them offline, off of Amazon, from companies, and 3D printing parts, modifying the drones so they could carry a grenade or other exploding device, and it could simply be dropped from the drone and be from air-to-ground munition. Ukraine is fighting for its very existence, to maintain its government and democracy. And idiots screech at universities and colleges in protest to free Palestine. Let's be honest here. Palestine is just being manipulated. It's just a useful idiot. As useful as the people that Palestine manipulates themselves. They're just all useful idiots. Any regime throughout history, I should say any bad regime, needs its useful idiots. In the States, the people who follow Trump, useful idiots. Just useful idiots. They follow a pedophile, rapist, just useful idiots. Don't you be a useful idiot for anyone. Use critical thinking and think for yourself. Thank you for giving me your time.